Last time we were at Brands Hatch, it was a totally different story. The cold British winter replaced by a slightly warmer British summer for the Hudson Kitchens Brands Hatch summer stages. There was even more variety of stages on offer, utilising the full venue, including the circuit, paddock, pit lane, rally course, and for the first time, the pit lane tunnel. With 8 stages waiting for the crews, let's get straight to the action. A different event and a different start as we see an early lead from Brands Hatch newcomers Josh Payton and Marcus Mizzen. Third after the opening stage, but they move into that lead on stage 2. For Trevor Martin and Ray Cleghorn, it will be second place now, but it was close at the top with only 1 second separating the pair. They started the day joint leaders, so the fight was definitely on. And joining them in that joint lead after the first stage were Pete Rayner and Richard Bonner. But the pair also lose a little time to the new leaders on the second stage, to drop down into third. No change on the early stages for Nigel Mummery and Fiona Scarrett. They start the day in 4th, and that's where they end stage 2, as well as 2nd in Class E. Steve Beck and Paul Brown get to the end of stage 2 in 5th place. A good run to gain a few places after a cautious start on the first stage. They lie 2nd in Class C. Things were not going as well for Dean Thomas and Rich Knowlton this time out. The lead was 17 seconds out of their hands at the moment, as they lie in 6th overall. However, the Class B lead was more than secure. Alex Cannon and Ray Keith unfortunately lose a couple of places on stage 2. A good start sees them briefly in 5th, but for the pair, it will be 7th for now, as well as 3rd in Class E. It would unfortunately be the same story for Andrew Bayliss and Chris Sharp-Simkis. The pair lose a little time on the second stage to end this pair of stages in 8th place, as well as 2nd in Class D. Graham Bell and Russ Radford moving the right way up the results on stage 2. 3 places in fact, now inside the top 10 in 9th position, and rounding off the podium places in Class D at this early stage. And rounding out our top 10 would be Josh Bryant and Simon Robinson, the pair lying 3rd in Class C and just 5 seconds behind Bell up ahead. A look at some of the other class places outside the top 10, and in 18th place it will be Christopher and Anthony Newton, the pair leading the way in Class A despite struggling with hold-ups along the way. For Ben and Mike Dawson, it will be the Class B battle they were concentrating on. They were some way off class leader Dean Thomas, but the rest of the class was looking close. 9 seconds close in fact, as the top of the class was rounded off by Colin Paul and Mark Nurse, 3rd in Class B and in 29th on the leaderboard. In Class A, there will be a minute gap to the leaders, with Mark and Matthew Blackmore lying in 2nd at this stage, but they were going to have to keep the pace up to hold that position. They would be chased down by Tony Cappan and Stanley Graham, the pair lying 3rd in the class and only 2 seconds behind 2nd place, so it was all to play for. At the end of the 2 opening stages, the results are looking like this. On to the next few stages now, and there wouldn't be any change in the lead of the event, as Josh Payton and Marcus Mizzen continue to lead the way and open up a small but slightly more comfortable 15-second lead. And that 2nd place wasn't changing either yet. Trevor Martin and Ray Cleghorn are still the ones chasing down the leaders, but they only had a couple of stages left to do it with now. Unfortunately, the top of the results do take a big shake-up as we lose Pete Rayner and Richard Bonner. They hit a fence in stage 5, and as well as impact damage, the car catches fire, so game over and stage cancelled. Now the team have a big job on their hands getting the car ready for the Jersey Rally. So all this means some changes to the rest of the results, and it was a good move up to 3rd for Steve Brock and Paul Brown. The pair move up overall, but it's still 2nd in Class C for the pair behind Payton. No change for Nigel Mummery and Fiona Scarrett. The pair remain 2nd in their class and in 4th overall. No change to that overall place despite the dramas around them. Ian Hucklebridge and Gary Johnson make a big jump up the results to end these stages in 5th place, and a massive jump from 5th to 1st in Class D. Part of the movement in the top 10 will be down to the loss of Dean Thomas and Rich Knowlton after stage 4, the steering rack breaking on the car and ending their hopes of win number 3 at Brands. Graham Bell and Russ Radford were still enjoying climbing the results, and they end stage 6 in 6th position, and with the loss of Rayner, it's a move to 2nd in Class D too. Unfortunately, we'd lose Alex Cannon and Ray Keith in this loop of stages. They go out on stage 6. And also we lose Andrew Bayliss and Chris Sharp-Simkis from the top 10 in stage 3, the engine giving up in the BMW. So even more change in the top of the results then, as Josh Bryant and Simon Robinson move up the results and into 7th. No change, however, to the pair's 3rd place in Class C. We'd now see a move up into 8th place for Dennis Marshall and Mark James in the Metro, 3rd in Class E at this stage. There'd be some good stages for Roger and Steve Cox, as they lie just inside the top 10 now in 9th place, as well as just outside the Class C podium in 4th. And rounding out the top 10 were Nick Jarvis and Craig Thorley, the pair just 8 seconds behind Cox in the Class C battle. Outside the top 10 meanwhile, it will be 14th overall and 3rd in Class D for Chris Self and Paul Lohman. It would be, though, the Class B lead for Ben and Mike Dawson. The loss of Dean Thomas gifted them a place, but for now it will be 18th on the leaderboard still. Tony Rendell and Sebastian Simone move up the order to 2nd in Class B. The new gearbox in the car seem to be performing well this weekend, as they lie in 22nd overall. And rounding out the top of the Class B results at this stage with 3rd in the class were Chris Keys and Graham Tour, just 2 seconds between 2nd and 3rd in the class. In the Class A battle, it will be all change. We see Tony Capon and Stanley Graham make a move up from 3rd in the class to the class lead. For previous class leaders, Christopher and Anthony Newton, it will be a drop down to 2nd. And for Mark Barham and Carl Brown, it will be a move now into 3rd in Class A, although a little way behind the crews ahead. Part of the change in that Class A was due to the loss of Mark and Matthew Blackmore from 2nd in the class, the head gasket giving up on the car. So at the end of this loop of stages, the results look like this. On to the final results then, and the classes and overall top 10. And in 42nd overall, it will be Mark Barham and Carl Brown, the pair losing a few places overall, but remaining 3rd in Class A. Still more changes to Class A, as leaders in the last loop, Tony Capon and Stanley Graham sadly moved down into 2nd place at the end. Still a great result though, in 34th on the leaderboard. And for Christopher and Anthony Newton, it will be a surprise class win. A puncture and numerous hold-ups looked sure to spoil that for them, but it all came good at the end of the rally. Some of the other classes take a shake-up too, with Abby Mahmood and Andy Hollingham ending the event this weekend 3rd in Class B and 21st overall. For Jeffrey and Claire Martin, it will be 20th overall. The pair would finish 3rd in Class D. Ian Hucklebridge and Gary Johnson unfortunately end the day in 19th overall. The previous Class D leaders losing 14 places, which unfortunately puts them down 2nd in the class. No change though in the class for Tony Rendell and Sebastian Simone. They remain 2nd and finish the day 18th on the leaderboard. And it's the same story for Ben and Mike Dawson. They keep the Class B lead that they took in the previous stages and end the day in 16th. On to the top 10 then, and rounding it off in 10th with Jesse Cross and David Jones, the pair taking 6th in the highly competitive Class C. Nick Jarvis and Craig Thorley end the day just 2 seconds ahead in 9th and take 5th in the class away with them today. And for Roger and Steve Cox, it will be 4th in the class, a slightly better 18-second advantage in that place for the pair. Not much change though for Dennis Marshall and Mark James, as they gain 1 place and end the day in 7th, as well as finishing 3rd in Class E. And third in Class C would go to Josh Bryant and Simon Robinson, the pair ending the event in 6th on the leaderboard. Graham Bell and Russ Radford have a good run and come away with the Class D victory, as well as finishing in 5th overall. And for Steve Beck and Paul Brown, it will be just outside the podium in 4th place to end the day, taking 2nd in Class C. Nigel Mummery and Fiona Scarrett unfortunately don't make any advance on their final podium place, 3rd overall and 2nd in the class for the Focus pair. Taking victory in that class though, as well as a runner-up spot this weekend, were Trevor Martin and Ray Cleghorn. The pair get within 19 seconds of the leaders, but that's all they could manage by the finish. So all that means it's a victory for Josh Payton and Marcus Mizzen on their first visit to these stages. A great result after a weekend of great pace from the Escort pair. So at the end of the Brands Hatch summer stages, here's a reminder of the overall results. So that's all we've got time for on Special Stage Extra. From me, Paul, and the rest of the team, make sure you check out all of our social media to keep in touch between the shows. And thank you for watching.